Hello, sports fans. It is Monday, October the 26th, the year 2015. And as always, a lot to get to in the sports world, so let's get it going right now. Great to be back with you guys. Hope you guys are doing great. You enjoyed all the games over the weekend. Without further ado, let's get to our NFL picks for week number 8 in the league where they play for pay. And let's get right to the Thursday game, and it's a good one where the New England Patriots are at home, -8 against the Miami Dolphins. New England, of course, 6-0, still perfect this year. Hung on and beat the Jets yesterday in a very competitive game. Miami up to 3-3. They bombed Houston yesterday. I mean, they just buried Houston yesterday. Miami, since the coaching change, very inspired, playing very, very well. Miami has turned the corner. They are starting to play some good football. Now, I took the Jets yesterday against New England and I covered, and I think I'm going to do the same thing here with Miami. Do I think Miami can actually win the game? No, but I think they can cover the 8. This is the best Miami has played all year. They seem very inspired since the coaching change. I think Miami can hang in this game. Now, I'm not going to pick them to win. I am not going to pick them to win. New England can score on anyone. They put up 30 yesterday against that good Jet defense. I think New England's going to get through here and win the game, but I'm going to take Miami +8 to hang in the game in a very competitive Thursday night game. So pick number 1, Miami +8 at New England to keep it close. Let's go to the Sunday games. Let's go to London again. Here we go, yet another London game where the Kansas City Chiefs are -3.5 against the Detroit Lions. Kansas City is 2-5. They did show some life yesterday in beating the Steelers. Detroit is 1-6. They lost to Minnesota. Detroit is an awful football team. To me, this is a very bad game. I don't like this game at all. I don't think Kansas City's a good team, but I think Detroit is a dreadful team. At least with Kansas City, maybe you get a few stops on defense. Detroit doesn't stop anyone. I'll take Kansas City here, -3.5 against Detroit in London. I don't love this game. I think both teams are bad, but I think Detroit is worse. I'll take Kansas City -3.5 against the Lions in London. That's pick number 2. Pick number 3, let's go to Atlanta, where the Atlanta Falcons are -7 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Atlanta up to 6-1 as they won a hard-fought game against Tennessee. They hung on and won that game. Tampa Bay down to 2-4. They lost to Washington after having a 24-0 lead and let that game totally slip away. Listen, I gotta like it. I have to like Atlanta here. Atlanta's got way too much firepower for Tampa Bay. Atlanta, after a couple of subpar performances on the road, now they come back home, the offense is ready to explode, and I think Tampa Bay's made to order for the Falcons. I think the Falcons get back to scoring a lot of points this week. I like Atlanta -7 against Tampa Bay in Atlanta. Let's go to the dog pound in Cleveland, where the Arizona Cardinals are -4.5 against the Cleveland Browns. Of course, Arizona plays tonight at home against Baltimore. Cleveland down to 2-5 after they lost to the Rams yesterday, where they couldn't even get in the end zone. Didn't like the way Cleveland played, especially in the fourth quarter of this game. Listen, I got to go with Arizona here. I just cannot trust Cleveland. People ask me all the time, why don't you take Cleveland a lot when you're making the picks? Well, you saw yesterday why I don't take them a lot. They couldn't get in the end zone yesterday, and when you look up, they're 2-5 again. I can't trust them. I think Arizona is one of the better teams in the NFC. I think Arizona will win tonight, and I think they will handle this Cleveland team. I know the game's in the dog pound. I love the fans there. I think Arizona is just better. I'll take Arizona -4.5 against Cleveland in the dog pound. Let's go to St. Louis, where the St. Louis Rams are -7.5 against the San Francisco 49ers. Rams up to 3-3. Like I mentioned, they beat Cleveland yesterday. Niners down to 2-5. They got manhandled by Seattle on Thursday night. Listen, St. Louis has the talent to play with everyone. St. Louis just has to be consistent. They have to do it week in and week out. And how about this running back, Gurley? He was really good at Georgia, had that catastrophic knee injury, but he is really playing well for St. Louis. I mean, he looks like a solid back. St. Louis has the defense. They can play with anyone. They just need to be consistent. San Francisco, listen, they reverted back to their old ways against Seattle. I don't trust San Francisco at all. I think the Rams are just better. I'll take the Rams at home, -7.5 against the Niners. Let's go to the Superdome in New Orleans, where the New Orleans Saints are -3.5 against the New York Giants. Saints up to 3-4 as they beat the Colts yesterday. Saints have now won a couple in a row. Giants are up to 4-3 as they beat Dallas yesterday in a very close game. This is a very, very interesting game. Very interesting game. Both teams have their flaws. Saints are playing a little better. Giants are in first place. To me, this is a field goal game either way. Game could go either way. So I'll take the Giants plus 3.5 at New Orleans. I just think it's a field goal game either way. Both teams have a lot of flaws, so I think it's a close game either way. I'll take the Giants plus 3.5 in New Orleans. Let's go to Soldier Field in Chicago, one of my favorite stadiums in all of the NFL, where the Minnesota Vikings are -2 against the Chicago Bears. Minnesota are up to a very respectable 4-2 as they beat Detroit on the road yesterday. Chicago, of course, 2-4 coming off the bye. I think the Vikings are just better. I said yesterday the Vikings are just better than Detroit. That's why I took Minnesota yesterday. Same thing here. Minnesota from top to bottom is better than the Bears. The Bears can do some things on offense, but the Bears can't stop anyone on defense. The Bears can't get out of their own way. Minnesota is a more together team. They can lead on Peterson. Peterson did not have a good game yesterday. He was sick. He had some problem because he was chewing tobacco, so he was sick yesterday. He didn't play all that well. Expect him to play much better this week against the Bears, who can't stop anyone. I think Minnesota's just better. I'll take Minnesota -2 against the Bears in Chicago. Let's go to Baltimore, where the Baltimore Ravens are -3 against the San Diego Chargers. Of course, Baltimore plays tonight. Baltimore off to a dreadful start, losing a lot of close games. San Diego 2-4, and they just looked atrocious yesterday in losing to Oakland. I mean, what a despicable loss by San Diego. I mean, they were out of this game in the first quarter. Yes, they rallied late, but it was too little too late. I couldn't believe how bad San Diego started off this game. Dreadful performance by the Chargers. I mean, I'd like to see how Baltimore plays in this game before I commit to this game, but right now I'll lean towards Baltimore just because I can't trust San Diego at all. Did you see the effort they had in the first half of that game yesterday against the Raiders? They were blown off the field. And here's another thing. Do any Charger fans in San Diego actually go to the game? Every time San Diego's playing at home, I feel like the other team has more fans in the building. The Raider fans took over San Diego yesterday. The Raiders have a hard time selling out the Oakland Coliseum, yet they had 1 million fans down there in San Diego yesterday. Every time San Diego plays a home team, I feel like they have no fans in the building. It's always the opposing team's fans, whether it be the Steelers or the Packers or the Raiders. San Diego, where are your fans? I know San Diego's one of those teams rumored to go to LA. Does anyone in San Diego actually go to a Charger game? I mean, awful job supporting the team. I mean, the Raiders took over the building yesterday. And like I said, the Raiders have a hard time filling up the Oakland Coliseum. They had no problem filling up the San Diego yesterday. So awful job all the way around for San Diego. I'll lean towards Baltimore here just because they're home. Like to see how they play tonight, though, before committing. Let's go out to Oakland, as I just mentioned them, where the New York Jets are -1 against the Oakland Raiders. Jets down to 4-2, had a tough loss to New England. Oakland up to a very respectable 3-3, and like I just mentioned, they laid it on San Diego in the first half of this game. I mean, they just demolished San Diego in all aspects of the game. Oakland is getting improved. Oakland has the quarterback now. They got the receiver. They can do some things. Oakland is starting to improve. This is a very tough game. I don't think Mangold is going to play for the Jets. That could be a huge loss. He has a neck injury. I'm going to go with the Jets here. I'm going to go with their running game and their defense here to slow down the Raiders. I like the Jets' running game. I like their defense. The Raiders are improved, but I think the Jets might be a little better right now. Now, I don't love the Jets' quarterback. I don't love Fitzpatrick. I mean, I don't like him at all. But I think the Jets will lean on that running game, lean on their defense, maybe force a couple turnovers. This is a very tough game. Could go either way. I'll take the Jets -1 out in Oakland. Let's go to the Big D in Dallas, where the Seattle Seahawks are -5.5 against the Dallas Cowboys. Seattle up to 3-4 after their win against the San Francisco 49ers. Dallas down to 2-4 as they lost a heartbreaker to the Giants yesterday. We'll see about Bryant. He's week to week. Romo is still out. I didn't like the way Castle played at all yesterday for Dallas. I mean, he really cost them the game. Turnovers all over the place. I got to take Seattle here. I mean, Seattle, I know a lot of people have, written them off. I have not. I think Seattle's going to be there in the end. They had to win on Thursday Night Football. Now they have a long week to prepare. I mean, I do not like the Dallas quarterback situation right now, especially going up against the Seattle defense. I don't like Castle against the Seattle defense. I think Seattle's defense will control this game. I like Seattle -5.5 against Dallas in the Big D. Dallas has to get some healthy bodies back. I keep saying it. Let's go to Denver. Here is a great game where the Green Bay Packers are -2.5 against the Denver Broncos. Denver is an underdog at home. Both teams 6-0. Both teams coming off a bye. This is the game of the week. This is a tremendous game. I mean, what a game. Denver's defense, Green Bay's offense. This is a very tough game. I could go either way on this game. I'm going to go with Green Bay here just because I trust Rodgers a little more than I trust Manning now. Manning looks like an old elephant right now. Rodgers is in his prime. Listen, I know that Denver defense can do some things. I mean, they could wreak havoc on this game. Denver's defense, they come to play every week. They're tough. But I just trust Rodgers right now more than Manning. Even though the game's in Denver, I'll take Green Bay to win by a field goal here in a must-watch game of the week. Green Bay -2.5 at Denver. The Monday night game, Carolina at home, -5.5 against the Indianapolis Colts. Carolina up to a very impressive 6-0 as they beat the Eagles last night. Carolina can do no wrong right now. They're ferocious. They have a good running game, a good defense. Cam Newton makes a lot of plays. Nice job by Carolina. Indianapolis is 3-4. They lost to New Orleans yesterday. They haven't played a good game all year. I mean, even the games they won, they didn't look all too great doing it. But there they are sitting in first place. But I will watch the coach. Coach could be on a hot seat. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets fired if this continues. I got to like Carolina here. I mean, Carolina can do no wrong right now. It's 5.5 points. I'll jump all over Carolina here. Carolina's beating some good teams the last couple of weeks. Beat Philly, beat Seattle. What has Indianapolis done? To me, this spread is too low. Carolina's home. It's only 5.5. I mean, I don't get it. We all love Andrew Luck, but the Colts are just not doing it this year. I'll take Carolina at home, -5.5 against the Colts. You have 4 teams with a bye: Buffalo, Philly, Washington, and Jacksonville. And right now, 2 games are off the board, so I can't give you these games. Houston is at home, and that game is off the board against Tennessee. You don't know who's quarterbacking for Tennessee. You don't know about Mariota. Houston's an absolute mess. Forster looks like he tore his Achilles. You got Houston players missing flights. They are an absolute disaster, Houston. Did you see how they played yesterday against Miami? Houston is a mess. Look for the coach to be fired there. I cannot believe how bad Houston is this year on both sides of the ball. They are an atrocity this year. But right now, that game is off the board. Houston, Tennessee. I'll have to give you that pick later in the week. Also, Pittsburgh at home against Cincinnati. That game is off the board. We don't know about Roethlisberger. He says he will play, but I guess that's not official. Steelers had a bad loss to the Chiefs yesterday. Steelers need Roethlisberger back in the worst way. They've held the fort. They were 2-2 without Roethlisberger, but need him back in the worst way. Their quarterback play was awful yesterday against a bad Chief team. Bengals, of course, coming off a bye. So I got to give you those 2 picks later in the week. So there you go. There are your NFL picks for week number 8. Should be a nice week in the NFL. That Denver-Green Bay game is a real great game. As far as college football, as far as what happened over the weekend, USC just demolished Utah. I was a little surprised about that. Alabama hung on and beat Tennessee. Mississippi just drubbed Texas A&M. Here we go again with Texas A&M. Can't beat a good team. Georgia Tech blocks a field goal and then runs it back with no time left to shock Florida State. Clemson just destroyed Miami 58-0. Miami's coach gets immediately fired after that, and you can't argue with that. I mean, I know Al Golden had a lot on his plate when he got to Miami, but you cannot lose at home 58-0. And by the way, I was talking about San Diego with their fans. What about the Miami Hurricane fans? There was no one in the building again. The people that were there were all Clemson fans. What has happened to the University of Miami football program? A complete disaster. They're looking for a new coach now. You had that tragedy at Oklahoma State where a few people got killed, a bunch of people got hurt when a car plowed into a few people alongside the road during the homecoming parade. Terrible story out there in Oklahoma State. Our condolences go out to the families and the victims out there. Just a terrible, terrible story out there at Oklahoma State. Did not like to hear that at all. Terrible stuff. All right, as far as this week in college football week number 9, listen, this is an awful week of college football. Last week was not good at all. I mean, game day was at James Madison. This week, they don't even know where game day is going to be right now. They're debating 2 sites, Notre Dame at Temple, and Temple plays where the Eagles play. They're debating that, or they're debating Stanford at Washington State. Stanford's already got a loss. Washington State's got 2 losses. They don't know where to go for college game day. I think they want to go to Notre Dame Temple, but they want to broadcast in a landmark there in Philly, and they need a special permit. So I don't know if they're going to be able to do that there. So they may have to fall back to Stanford, Washington State. Washington State's got a couple of losses this year. There is nothing going on in college football this week. I mean, those are your 2 bigger games of the week. This is an awful week of college football. I do have a few picks for you. I have 6 picks for you. Let's get to it right now. For week number 9, Texas A&M is at home, minus 14.5 against South Carolina. Texas A&M has had back-to-back dreadful performances against, Alabama and Mississippi. They come home now, and they have a team they can handle. South Carolina is 3-4. Spurrier, of course, has left the program. South Carolina is not a good team at all, and they can't score. I think Texas A&M is going to look to get back to their winning ways, look to get fat on a bad South Carolina team in College Station. Texas A&M's lost a couple in a row. They're going to be an angry bunch of Aggies. They'll take it out on South Carolina. I like Texas A&M at home, minus 14.5 against South Carolina at College Station. That's pick number 1. Pick number 2, let's go to Jacksonville. The largest outdoor cocktail party used to be one of my favorite games, has dipped a little bit in recent years. The Florida Gators are minus 3 against the Georgia Bulldogs. Half the crowd Florida, half the crowd Georgia. Georgia is stumbling and bumbling. I mean, they're saying if Georgia doesn't win this game, their coach could be out. I don't like Georgia at all. They've lost a couple of games. They lose their stud running back. I think Florida is just better. I know Florida's playing their backup quarterback, but they played well at LSU. They hung in that game. I think Florida is just better from top to bottom. I like Florida to beat Georgia in the cocktail party. I like Florida minus 3 against Georgia in Jacksonville. That's pick number 2. Pick number 3, let's go to Memphis. How about the Memphis Tigers, undefeated? They are minus 29 against the Tulane Green Wave, who are 2-5 and awful. Memphis is playing some dynamite football. Look for the Memphis coach to get a big-time job in the offseason. Memphis should roll in this game at home. Tulane is not a good team. They can't beat anyone, and Memphis puts up points left and right. If you haven't seen Memphis, check them out. They blew out Mississippi this year. Memphis can play. Memphis rolls in this game. Memphis at home in the Liberty Bowl, minus 29 against Tulane. That's pick number 3. Pick number 4, let's go to Minnesota, where the Michigan Wolverines are minus 13 against the Minnesota Golden Gophers. Minnesota is 4-3. They've kind of been an up-and-down team. Michigan 5-2 had the absolutely heartbreaking loss to Michigan State. Had a week off to stew about that loss. I think Michigan's going to respond. I think Harbaugh is going to have the troops motivated after that heartbreaking loss to Michigan State. They had a week off. Minnesota is not a big-time offensive team. I think Michigan's defense can shut down Minnesota. I think they will. I think Michigan rebounds in a big way. Michigan minus 13 against Minnesota in Minnesota is pick number 4. Pick number 5. Like I said, this is one of the sites that may be a game day site. Notre Dame minus 9.5 at Temple. Temple plays where the Eagles play. Like I said, they're trying to work out where they're going to have college game day. Will it be in Temple? Will it be at Washington State? They still haven't made a decision on that. Temple is undefeated and having an absolutely fabulous year. Notre Dame has only had one loss. That was at Clemson in a monsoon. Listen, I've loved what Temple has done this year, and I've picked them a lot this year, and I've sang their praises all year, but Notre Dame is just better. Notre Dame can't afford any more losses if they have any hope of getting to that Final Four playoff, and they're on the outside looking in. Make no mistake about it, they're going to need a lot of help to get back up there. They can't afford any more losses. I think Notre Dame is just better than Temple, and I think there'll be a lot of Notre Dame fans in Eagles Stadium here. I mean, Temple doesn't get a huge crowd. I think they played Penn State this year there, and it was all Penn State fans. I think it'll be all Notre Dame fans here, where the Eagles play. I think Notre Dame is just better from top to bottom. Temple's had a fabulous year, but I think they're running into a team that's just better than them. I think Notre Dame wins this game. I like Notre Dame minus 9.5 against Temple in Philly. And the last game, like I said, this is a possible site for game day as well. Stanford minus 13.5 at Washington State. Stanford has won 6 in a row after they lost to Northwestern to start the year. Washington State has really turned their year around. They're 5-2. They've won 3 in a row. They lost to Portland State to start the year. They were calling for Mike Leach to be fired. They've really turned their season around, and I'll tell you, this quarterback can sling it. This quarterback is really good for Washington State. The problem here, though, is I think Stanford is way too physical for Washington State, though. I think Stanford is going to mash Washington State. Washington State's defense is not all that good, so I think Stanford is going to play ball control, mash Washington State, keep that good Washington State quarterback and offense on the sidelines. Stanford way too hot right now. I got to go with Stanford minus 13.5 at Washington State in one of the possible game day sites in a light week of college football. When we're talking Stanford, Washington State, or Notre Dame Temple as your best game of the weekend, we're in trouble. I mean, this is an awful week of college football. It really is. I thought last week was bad. This week is absolutely atrocious in college football. It can't get any worse than this. So a bad week in college football, not too many games to keep an eye on. I did give you some picks there, but it is a light week in college football. As far as the World Series, that will get going tomorrow. The Mets and the Royals from Kansas City. Kansas City as home field should be a good, long series. Kansas City now in back-to-back World Series. The Mets with that great young pitching should be a long, good series. Could go either way. Really good stuff in Major League Baseball. Make sure you tune into that. And I also wanted to send my condolences to the Flip Saunders family. Flip Saunders, of course, the coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, passed away. Heartbreaking news there. I mean, Flip Saunders was supposed to coach the T-Wolves, got diagnosed with cancer just 3 months ago. They said it was very treatable. Then in September, they were saying he was having some complications, and he passed away over the weekend. I was really shocked by that. Flip Saunders only 60 years old. That is heartbreaking news for the NBA. So our condolences go out to Flip Saunders' family. That is just terrible, terrible news. Flip Saunders, you will be missed. Okay, there you go. You guys are all caught up. You guys are all set. You have your NFL picks. You have your college picks. Like I said, I'll give you those 2 NFL games later in the week. I'll write them underneath my video. The Steelers, Bengals, and the Houston Tennessee game. Those games are off the board right now, but I will pick them the end of the week for you. You guys are all set. You guys are all caught up. Enjoy the football this weekend. Enjoy the World Series. You got a lot coming up, a lot to watch. You guys, thanks as always for the support. Stay happy, healthy, and safe. Pick a lot of winners. Make a lot of money. I'll talk to you guys soon. Take care.